the second there's a picture of a new car, somebody's driving it in Florida. How do they do that? What has Leno got on you?
So then I had to hear, I don't know, 6-7 times about the Ford GT.
If you had the windows open of the 928, you'd be deaf. And we were importing some really wild automobiles. A Swiss police car that Porsche built. You'd smoke the tires in second gear at 80 to 90 miles an hour. The officer is screaming his head off. And then it dawns on him that he's screaming at the passenger because it was a right-hand drive.
Jeff Stearns, connected through cars. If they're bigwigs, we'll have them on the show. And yes, we'll talk about cars and everything else. Here he is now, Jeff Stearns.
Living in the state of Florida, you see many, many different license plates. For some reason, it's a state where people just put anything. I guess you can get anything on your license plate in the state of Florida. It's got to be a looser. There's got to be a looser rule for that state, I believe.
Well, do you mean the personalization of the plate, or do you mean there's all kinds of different college and hobby and okay?
Yes, and it's incredible that I haven't seen binary yet on a license plate, but I'm sure it's coming. So, Jeff, where would you like to start our adventure? Because I've got a long history of vehicles, and I must tell you, I think I've sent you a lot of material over the course of our friendship. I've most likely pummeled you the minute I heard that you were a car guy, and I probably pummeled you with a bunch of stuff. But I always feel it's always great to start in the present and then work our way back, because it's always harder the older we get, the more I'm forgetting. And I think I really started bugging you during this pandemic when I said to you, Jeff, I've been renting cars since I came to Florida. Been having fun renting some really cool cars. We'll get to that. But I need a car. And, we were thinking about a budget and what we were looking at. And I really ended up deciding on the new Defender. I really wanted to get the new Land Rover Defender, which, it's a good looking car. I've seen it on the road right when it came out, because, the state of Florida, Jeff, the second there's a picture of a new car, somebody's driving it in Florida. How do they do that? Just tell me. Explain it to me. I've never seen something like it.
Is this different than New York?
1,000%. It's different than California, different than any state I've ever encountered. In that vehicle had to be. I don't even know if it was in a dealership yet, and it was parked in Delray on Atlantic Avenue with no plates on it yet, temporary plates, and somehow somebody got the car, and just a great looking vehicle. And what happened to me was, I think I might have told you some of this, but I ended up with a Ford Bronco first edition, which was just luck of the pandemic, as they say, Jeff. The luck of the pandemic.
Right. We were talking about Bronco. You were wondering if you can get one. I told you there was a waiting list, and next thing you know, you were at a dealer getting one.
And you can't get a Bronco. The Ford Bronco Sport, for whatever reason, you could get every other model with every other kind of stupid kind of, you name the name the wheel, the interior, the stitching that they could do, but no sunroof, only on the first edition. And the crazy thing is, they only made 2,000 first editions. So I figured, the car's not going to happen for me. Anyway, I'm in the dealership and I walk in, and again, I'm the only guy in the deal. It's January of 2021, man. There's nobody in Miami yet. I mean, maybe they're in the clubs. The clubs, they never stop. But the car dealerships, it was me. It was me and Anthony. So I said to Anthony, I go, Anthony, what is that? what car is that? Because I know in my head, there's no first editions. They're gone. They're gone for the big one. They're all taken already. And Anthony says to me, oh, we had a number of deposits that the people walked away from because of COVID, and they decided, you know what? Not doing it. Not taking the car. So he goes, well, we have two. I said, okay. I said, can we test drive it? And he goes, well, I can't let you. He goes, can't let you test drive the first edition because it's a first edition, Jeff. They won't let me test. But he said, I'll let you test drive. I think it's called the Big Bend or something. I think one of their models. I mean, whoever did the naming at Ford, what were they smoking that day? You take it out and zoom around. And you know what? It wasn't bad. I mean, it wasn't, listen, it wasn't an 8, it didn't have an 8-cylinder kick to it, but it was, the car moves. And I went back there with him and ended up, lo and behold, ended up with the Ford Bronco Sport, first edition, which I must say, I've got 6,000 miles. That's right, Jeff. 6,000 miles. I bought it in January, February, March, April, May, June. It's about 1,000 miles a month. Not bad, right?
Right.
Drive it, rain, snow, no snow yet. I really would like to see it in the snow. But I have to tell you, thing goes, it definitely exceeds the speed limit really well. Seriously, at 85 to 90, I've probably had it up to 100 on a straightaway with nobody else on the road, of course, safely. But overall, I have to say, they've built a great car, and I've never had a Ford before. I never owned a Ford before. Are you a Ford guy? Have you had Fords?
My grandfather was a designer for Ford in Detroit.
Really?
Yeah. So I grew up. On my mom's side, everyone had Fords.
Wow. So which car did you get to learn to drive on a Ford?
Nah, my dad, was a dealer in Detroit. So all he did was used car. So all he did was bring home cool stuff every day. So I grew up with all the cool stuff. So what did I learn to drive on? At 9 years old, I learned to drive.
A good age to learn to drive. In
a 69 Vette big block.
Nice. That's safe. That's very safe for a 9-year-old, especially back then with no seatbelts, no airbags, nothing. That's the way it's done.
That was the first car I ever drove alone. Now, all I did was ride the brake, and I had to hold myself up on the steering wheel because I couldn't see over the cowl anyway. So I'm holding myself up. My ass isn't even on the seat, and I'm riding the brake and went around the block a couple times. My dad let me, which was crazy if you think about it. But
I love it. I love it. My dad was a T-Bird. My dad was a T-Bird guy. Mm-hmm. The first, I guess so. I mean, I definitely, I was born in a T-Bird then because my dad's car. I was born in 65. My dad had, I believe he had a 67. I wish I had a picture of it. It was a rose beige. I don't know if you remember that color they made.
Sure.
And my dad was like a flashy guy back then. He had a rose beige T-Bird, and it was a hot car. It looked like the freaking Batmobile, and I guess it's considered probably the first car that I crashed because me too. I got behind the wheel and I drove it right into the driveway door.
Nice.
Yeah. Nice. Right. That set the precedent with my dad for years to come for accidents.
My first real car that my dad gave me, I was 13.
Right.
77 Jeep Golden Eagle. 304 V8, Levi's interior, the eagle on the hood, the gold wheels, the dark brown, automatic.
Did you keep pictures of these cars or no?
Yeah, I have a couple of the Jeep.
That's good.
My dad always drove Marks though. So the first car I really remember was his new, so I was 4, 69 Mark III.
That's nice.
And then he got a new mark every 6 months.
That's nice.
And it was funny because I'm like, Dad, why do you get a new car so often? He says, I could trade for like $800, $1,000.
Right. Well, that's, you know what? That was the beauty to that time period. You know, if you watch Leno sometimes, I'm sorry, I don't want to bring up a competitor, but I think you beat him out anyway. Because what has Leno got on you? Just a couple of cars, you know?
That's it.
A few sets.
And a couple zeros.
But, you know, you listen to him, it sounds like you. I mean, I think it would be great. I wish I was friends with Jay, because I would have had Jay right here. If I could have gotten a blow-up doll of Jay and just put him on the couch, that would have been hot, because it would have thrown a lot of your viewers off. They don't expect that.
The ones that are left at the moment, we're down to 3. So when you and I met, Izzy, and your background is, and I don't know what's okay to talk about, but male
go-go dancer, and I bulked up through the pandemic, so I can't really can't move as I could polka a lot of polka, Jeff.
So Izzy actually was, I think was the finalist with Patrick Swayze in Dirty Dancing auditioning.
Yeah.
So Izzy funding for companies, taking companies public, this sort of thing, right? Your background?
We could title it as, you know, investment.
We can
banking.
edit out anything. Don't talk about that.
You could talk about it. It's not. I never hurt anybody. Not that I know.
It's okay.
Not that I can admit to. No.
So we were we were together fundraising for a new product. We met at a Midtown Manhattan steakhouse, right? And
yes, we did.
We had a number of potential investors there. You were there for the reason you were there. I was there because it was car business related, and a lot of the investors would want to know, how does this work in titling? How does this work state to state? How does this work logistically? And I would get called over to the conversation to answer that sort of thing.
Well, listen, absolutely. And the, you know, like with many transactions, the vision on it, if I can coin the term, because part of the company's name had vision in it, just spelt a little differently. But the vision of the company, if it would have been followed through, unbeknownst that we were going to be in a full-blown pandemic where people were actually going to be purchasing vehicles, you know, over the internet and having them delivered to their house, way before, let's just call it Carvana and Vroom and some of these other brands got real popular. I'd say that we were probably ahead of the curve on that model.
Who knew?
And it most likely would have done quite well if the follow through had been able to been accomplished. But you know, it was a shot. It was a title fight. You know, you get a title fight, and sometimes you win, sometimes you don't win.
So we're at this event. I think we had 2 of them, right? And we're at this steakhouse, and you were so kind to pay attention to my wife and keep her occupied while I was up talking to the various guys. But when you and I would sit down, you found out I was a real car guy. So then I had to hear, I don't know, 6, 7 times about the Ford GT.
Well, you know, that brings us to Ford. That would have been my first buy of a Ford. And I was born in 65, and my grandfather actually used to buy me, Matchbox cars. And they used to come, I don't know if you remember, you definitely do. They used to come in a little box, remember
I'm
the
your
little
age.
box? Yeah, they used to come in a little box. And my grandfather always, every time I saw my grandfather, he'd give me another car. And he even got me little motorcycles too, eventually. But, and the first car that I remember I loved as a little kid was this, I didn't know what the hell it was. And it was, the Ford GT, which of course, was big winner back in 64, 65, 66, I think it was 67 too, or I don't remember if it was 67 or they started to dwindle off in 67. I don't remember, but
the
anyway,
GT40s.
The
Beat cars?
GT40. Huh?
I really don't know. I had Marty Shore on here who had an opportunity to buy one of the original race cars and didn't buy it for $5 because he thought it would be $3,500 the next year.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Little did he know that it's a couple of $1 million, but you wouldn't be, you see the kit cars of it out there today. But what happened to me was I was turning 40. And when I was turning 40, little did I know that Ford was going to roll out that car for the 40th anniversary of the GT40, the original car. And, it really wasn't getting a lot of fanfare. And I figured, I'm turning 40 and that would be a perfect car to own. And at the time I had a, it had to be 2000. I forgot what year it was, but I had already, I had the Range Rover. I had a Porsche Cabrio at the time that I loved. And I figured, why not get a 2-seater that basically I was planning on taking the other seat out, the passenger seat, so that my wife couldn't even go in the car with me and just drive around, by myself and have my own like peaceful, sort of like a male room just to drive around,
Sanctuary.
Exactly. A sanctuary with wheels on it. And I ended up bidding on the car on eBay. And the crazy thing is, I got the paperwork from when I won the bid. I sent in my $1,000 deposit, and it was gorgeous. It was that tungsten silver. It had like that off, like not a white stripe. It was like a semi-white silvery stripe down the center. And the thing was just cool. It was absolutely magnificent car. And I think I had it at, I think the price was I think I got it at like 105 or something like that. I was so happy that I made the mistake of telling my wife about it. It's just, I should have just done it the same way I bought my Porsche, which is have it delivered to the house. And then there's nothing they could say. But I sat there at dinner and I remember it like yesterday. And I was like, honey, I'm getting myself my birthday present. It's right pegged for me. It's 40-year anniversary. It's right on my birthday. It's perfect. And I love silver. I love silver sports cars. I don't care what it is. If it's in silver with a black interior and no goddamn, cup holders, I'm in. And she gave me that look. That look, Jeff. You get that look. They look at you like, but where are you gonna put it?
That's right. The garage space in Long Island. There's
2 cars in the garage now. Where you're going to have to store it. And I was like, yeah, okay, so, I'll store it. I'm only going to use it in the summer, maybe, 3 months a year max. You're only going to use it 3 months a year? Why would you buy that? It doesn't make any sense. Can I use it? And I was like, well, it's a stick. And I know you know how to drive a stick, honey, which is one of the only reasons why I married you at the time, because you were you were actually very pretty and you drove a stick. But, that worked. That helps. It helps close a deal on the first marriage. And I thought about it, for like a couple of days and I didn't get it. And even though I probably
you backed out of the deal.
I backed out of the deal. And I know. And I've got the VIN number on it in the files, in the records, the car records. I got the VIN number, everything, the receipt, the whole thing, shipping date, everything. And, I probably would have had to have cut it in half for my divorce, because it would have been like a Solomon thing, There's no way I would have given it to her. No way. I never would have given it. I would have been, listen, I don't know if your audience ever gets this. I would have been like the way OJ was running in the white Bronco. I would have been on the run in the silver GT going across the country. And it would have taken them. They would have had to have roadblocked me. So anyway, just a little drawn out on the Ford GT, but I've driven them. Have you driven that model, the 2005?
It's scary.
It's the only way to describe
it's
that
shockingly
car,
fast. It could get away from you.
It's unbelievably fast. It's so much fun that car, it shouldn't be on. I mean, how more of them weren't wrecked, you know, I'm always amazed because that thing was just massive. It was just an amazing, amazing display how a company like Ford, which if you go back to that middle of that decade from 2000 to 2010, they really didn't have many great cars coming out. And to see them pump that out really gave, I think, the Blue Oval a little bit of clout, you know, at that point. And sure enough, I mean, they've come out with another one. And I don't know, the new one that they did, my jury's out. I haven't driven it. I'd love to drive it. But, you know, anytime you take an 8-cylinder and then you do the 6 with the zippity doodahs in it, you know, but then again, not to jump around here a little bit, have you seen the design of the new Maserati that's coming out? This
yes.
MC20?
Yes, I'm trying to get one to do a product video on, yes.
If you get one to do a project video, I'll be there, man. I mean, that thing, I mean, I think they're going to have a hit on it, but you know what? You could understand them putting a 6 in that. Because they can't do an 8, and the Ferrari, they had to do something a little different, but the thing looks absolutely to die. Listen, I'm sure it'll give McLaren a little run for their money, because I think McLaren is sort of the pinnacle of that type of looking car right now, as opposed to the Lambos and many of the other exotics that have come out.
You had a 930.
Well, you're talking about driving a freaking crazy, insane car. And why did I say freaking? We're not going to be edited. You don't have bloopers here. Talking about fucking driving an insane car. And just to show you how I keep a record of that, okay, this is on my board, just to show you my board here. I don't know, Jeff, were you ever in my lair? Did you ever come up to the office in New York? Oh my God. Okay, so this is good. I mean, and I haven't touched this for the show. Just look at this, okay? Hold on, I think I could turn this. Can I turn this around? Yeah. Oh, okay. So Jeff, what's that? Not Willie Mays.
The slant nose.
That's the slant nose. Okay. That was when I was doing gray market cars. Those girls came with the Rolls. Yes, they did. and right now, those two women are grandmothers. Those two women are probably grandmothers right now. But back then, they were really hot. In like I think that was 85 when we were importing gray market cars. There's another gray market we brought. We brought in a bunch of those 928s.
Yep.
And what we used to do to them, Jeff, we used to pull the exhaust off of the 928s. Okay?
Yes.
We would pull the exhaust off of the 928s, put in a straight pipe ANSA, and that car, like, I'm not joking. If you ever heard what a jet, like if you're up close to a jet engine, the thing made a sound where if you had the windows open of the 928, you'd be deaf. It was like it was a rumble. And when you hit the gas pedal, and that thing, who knows why Porsche discontinued going down that road, but that thing hauled ass and was on rails.
That was an 8-cylinder car.
As opposed to that, which that car we imported, because I was doing it with a couple of buddies of mine back in the 80s, and we were importing some really wild automobiles. And that car happened to be a Swiss police car. That was a chase vehicle. I'm not joking. It had a 3.5 liter engine in it. It was I think it was the 175th Porsche Turbo that Porsche built. 4-speed race gearbox. I'll put it this way. The thing would wheel spin. Okay, you'd smoke the tires in second gear at 80 to 90 miles an hour. The tires would re-smoke. So if you were on anything slick and you were going 85, 90 and shifting it into second gear, those cars just took off sideways. There was only one way to drive that car, and that was like this. You had to keep spinning that front wheel because it was literally jet propulsion in that vehicle. And then here, just to show you my wall of shame. So Jeff, do you see that?
Yes.
See that ticket?
Yes.
That's from the 100th running of the Indy 500. And that was a pretty incredible, time to go. I took my two sons to that. They were both blown away. And just to take you through the car wall of fame. And I'm not a garage. This might look like a garage, but it actually used to do investment banking. And obviously Paul Newman, a little hail to Paul Newman. And then I'll work my way down here. That's Montreal, where I took here. There's the race tickets from Montreal, from Formula One, where I took my kids. Oh yeah, that was their first F1 race that they ever saw. And like I said, I didn't set this up for you. That's my atypical wall of. I mean, there's actually more car stuff up there. A lot of Porsche paraphernalia, because at the end of the day, you got to pick your weapon, as they say, if you like to drive. And I'm sure you like to drive as well. But I'm not, all bullshit aside, I've driven the Z. I don't know what I have. I like to say I don't know what I haven't driven. I guess, other than like the new Ford GT or some of the new like crazy Aston Martins that are out, which I hear great things about. But as far as machines go that you could drive the living shit out of every day, and if you really don't want to change the oil and you don't want to do anything to it and just drive it until stuff falls off and it's still fun, there's nothing like a 911. I don't care. I don't care what anybody, I don't care what anybody says. It might not be the most comfortable car because some people want, they want that Aston Martin and they want, and even Ferrari's gotten a little cushier, but nothing like that car. It's the only car I've ever driven that you could place any place on the road as long as you know how to drive it. Well, it's the equivalent of a motorcycle at certain points. And I have to admit, if I see one more video of a new GT3, which I don't know, have you seen this car yet? Have you taken a look?
New GT3?
Yeah, the new GT3s.
Yes.
The one they make one that's like insane with like the tail and all that horse shit on it. And then they've actually done the smart thing, which is they've done a GT3 that's for like you could drive every day, which is amazing because you could probably take the car to the track right after you drive it around your block. But it doesn't have like a whale tail on it or anything, but it's just a magnificent car what they've done.
They took manual transmission out of that car and put it.
Yes, they put a PDK in that GT3, which is amazing. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm a purist. I love the stick shift. I like the manual, all that. However, for those of you out there in Jeff Sternland that have actually changed out a transmission in a Porsche when the gearbox goes, and they go, because everybody abuses second and third gear in 911s, you got to drop the whole freaking engine. It's an insane job and a half. So, having the, I drove a Tiptronic back in the, 99. And then, I've used their PDK. my jury's only out on it because they've turbocharged all their cars. So you can't really judge it to some extent anymore, because you there's always that little bit of turbo lag, no matter how much you can get rid of it, maybe in the turbo model,
there's no more lag.
Right. They've gotten rid of that.
There's no more lag. You can't tell where it kicks in anymore. And it's certainly not anemic at low RPM anymore.
I don't know. I don't know. I just,
there's nothing. Let us know. So I want to know a little more about the Rolls. You showed us the picture that looks like a shadow with the girls, right?
Oh, it was a long wheelbase shadow, my friend.
But you said this is from when I was doing gray market, but unless it's another story or I confuse stories, I think you told me once a guy owed you money and gave you one of these. Am I right? Or did I mix?
That's how we knew how to ship it over. And the guy owed me about 10 grand, and he shipped me a car instead, because he didn't have the money. And he shipped me over that car instead. And I luckily, we were doing gray market. I mean, I kept the picture of the 928. We brought in a bunch of 928s. We brought in that 935 turbo, a couple of 911s that were just amazing.
But you were going out in this Roll. So this was what, late 80s?
Oh, this was 1985, 86.
You were 21 in 85, 86.
What was that?
You were 20 or 21 in 85 or 86.
Yeah, that's right. Wearing a tank top, Jeff. A tank top, looking studly, cruising around in a right-hand drive roller on the streets of New York City. It was hilarious. We used it. So
let me ask this, because I remember the style. So you're wearing a tank top. It was probably tucked in to your tight jeans. Come on, with like boots pulled up over the jeans.
It was worse. It was Aka Joe. Remember the Aka Joe? Remember ACA? You don't remember Acapulco Joe?
Wow. I don't think so.
Wow. Maybe you know what? You got to Google that. You know what? I'm going to get you a tank top that says Aka on it. It says ACA. Very popular back in those days. But you know what? The thing was, I think I was able to get 9 people in that car at one point. And I was leaving a nightclub in the Hamptons at the time in Long Island. And I had at least, I'm not joking, there were 2 people in the front seat with me. And there were at least 7 people in the back. I mean, there were 10 people, including me. And of course, most of them were young ladies in the back. They're probably probably at least like 4. Yeah, probably 4, at least 4 girls in the back. And we get pulled over. And it's 4:00 in the morning. And the officer pulls us over, and he's screaming, because I had done like a complete illegal U-turn in the middle of the road. so it was the reason why we were pulled over. And the officer is screaming his head off. Are you crazy? What are you doing? I want to see your driver's license, registration, insurance. And at the time, just to look even cooler, I kept my English plates on the car. I never put my actual plates. I kept them in the boot, as the English call it. I kept my regular plates in the boot. And the officer is screaming his head off. And then it dawns on him that he's screaming at the passenger, because it was a right-hand drive. So I was sitting there in the car.
That's funny.
And the officer just looks up and he goes, "Oh, no, not one of these, not one of these." And he looks in the car and he just goes, "Go home to wherever your home is now. I don't ever want to see this car on the road at this hour of the night. If it is, I'm taking everybody in." And we just drove off, because the guy it was one of those cars, and I kid you not, because I only use the car in the summertime. I would leave that car double parked in front of restaurants outside New York City with the windows down, Jeff. I could leave the keys in it. in the ignition. And no one would go near it. No one would go near it. It was hilarious. It was definitely one of the funniest vehicles that I've owned in that time period. And of course, I ran it until the hydraulics exploded, which is what they do. They do. I mean, it exploded.
Suspension spheres, brake accumulators.
Oh yeah. The ass of the car was
steering rack.
It could almost hit the ground at a certain point. If I put luggage in it, I probably could have hit the ground with it. And I remember calling up. There was a dealership in New York called Harvey's. I don't know if you. Oh yeah, he was the Rolls-Royce guy in New York City at the time. Rolls-Royce and Bentley really wasn't cranking yet. And I brought it into Harvey's, and he took a look at it, and he goes, "Oh yeah, we can fix this. It's like 22,000, 20 something." And that's when I said, I'm selling this car. And subsequently, I sold the vehicle for probably the same amount that the guy owed me money on. I mean, I got great use out of it until it went nuclear. And some lucky person got, because the car, other than that, I think that thing had a 6.75 liter freaking engine in that thing.
That's what they had, yes.
Yeah.
All the torque in the world.
And it was gorgeous. I'm not going to lie. It was gorgeous. I wish I knew more how to work on it. But the thing was, it was a work of art. I mean, I believe that was the engine, or a version of it was in like the Spitfire and the what's it called? The air, what of our airplane?
No.
What was it? The Mustang?
Rolls-Royce Aero? No.
I think it was in the Rolls. I think the Rolls-Royce engines were in the airplanes.
No. Sorry to burst your bubble.
You don't think so?
No, they're not putting some iron block 6.75 liter car engine in a plane.
No, I think it was a Rolls-Royce. What they call it? Rolls-Royce Merlin.
Rolls-Royce still makes airplane engines. Rolls-Royce is in the airplane engine business. It just wasn't that engine.
Right. Well, maybe it wasn't that one, but it was a similar one.
Now, Jay Leno has a car with the Merlin engine.
Now you're talking. That's the engine.
Yes.
That's the engine that was in.
The engine that you're talking about in Rolls is really legendary, and they've always used 6.75 liter, and even the new Phantoms, all new Rolls they still use 6.75 liter. That's the size.
Can I ask you why? Why is that their number? Does anybody know?
There. It's only tradition. It's where they started with the Ghosts,
right?
And they call it waftability. They never disclose horsepower. The horsepower is always adequate, right? And but the torque was monster. So the idea was, without any fanfare, without any noise, without any RPMs, you give it just a little gas, it would go.
New York is one of those places that if you drive really fast there, you can either lose a wheel, because odds are, I mean, the police sometimes are not really readily available. At least not certain hours of the day. But, because the roads are so inadequate and just horrible, it was more of a contest of, do I get a flat or bust a rim or anything along those lines? But it was usually to get to the airport. I mean, that's usually the drag race that people would make. Jeff, not only were there speeding tickets, I had my license taken away by a judge. I must have had like 20 points. I think I had 20 points. And the judge, I came in, and the judge he ripped up my license in front of my face. It was when they were, when they were a paper license. And he ripped it in half in front of me and said, you're done. You're done. And I did the atypical, thing. And I figured out, I must have been, maybe I was 20 years old. And I said, wait a minute. There's 50 states, right? Every state gives you a license. So they took it away in New York. There's New Jersey. So I went and I took the test over, and I took the driving test. I did it all. No, I didn't just, and I got it. I was from Jersey for about, probably about 3 years. And I made it through. I made it. It wasn't, I didn't whip it out. Well, excuse me. I didn't take out the license for to show girls, because, they see New Jersey, they give you a look. But, it was fine. And I figured, if I lost the Jersey one, I would just, I'll go to Connecticut and work my way west, and yeah. So, there were a lot of very nice police officers out there. They really are. Anytime that you pass an officer going over 80 miles an hour or more, they will give chase. They will. I can attest to the chase model. The only time I got out of a chase and I was I had a Porsche 911 Cabrio, which I tweaked it, and I changed the chip and I lowered the suspension, and the car just hummed it. Even though it was one of the first ones out, it was a 996, which everybody makes fun of. But I probably had about 330, and change horsepower to the wheels, so the car moved. And the guy pulled me over, and he gave chase for a little while, and he pulled over, and he gets out of the car and comes over. And the first thing I said to him was, "Officer, my carpet was stuck under my accelerator." And it was the first thing I said to him. And they're wired up when they come over. They're recording you. So he looked at me and he said, "Open your door. I want to look." And luckily I had pushed it with my feet, under it. And I yanked, it looked all mussed up. And he opens my door and he sticks a flashlight in. And he goes, "That was a good response." And he goes, "Give me a license." No, he goes, "Give me a license, registration, insurance." I give him everything. And I was totally clean at the time. And he came back and he goes, he gave me a warning. He said, I'll remember this car. And I was like, thank you, officer. My worst speeding ticket was, of course.
Hang on, Izzy. Hang on.
Sure.
How does the mat bunched up under the accelerator make it accelerate? Wouldn't that make it decelerate?
It was just caught. I just explained to him that it was caught in it, and I couldn't get the accelerator pedal. I couldn't get the accelerator pedal to operate. This is before digital. Remember, this was an analog car. This was analog.
In a Testarossa. I had a Testarossa that I almost shut off the car. I couldn't understand why it was accelerating on me on the freeway.
See?
And it was the carpet.
Yeah, no, it does happen, but I just had to come up with some kind of horse shit, because if not, I knew I was looking at he probably clocked me at 90 something, because I slowed down when I saw the blue, the little blue car. It was one of those blue state trooper cars in Southern Long Island. And I was like, whoops, saw him too late.
So the worst ticket, sorry, I interrupted you.
Yeah. So the worst one I got, because you as a parent will understand this. So I have both my sons, and I was actually using my wife's Range Rover at the time. And I was in the HOV lane, probably doing, I don't know, let's say 80, 85, there was no traffic. And of course, my youngest decides that he must go to the bathroom. And you know what it's like when the little people need to use the bathroom. It's either
right now.
Right. It's either it's happening on the seats, or it's going out the window, and it's mayhem. So I, of course, put my blinker on, because, why not? And I got out of that HOV lane across I don't know how many double, triple, quadruple yellow lines to get to the exit. And of course, as luck would have it, there was a wonderful, probably just out of the Marine Corps police officer who most likely had just finished basic training and then decided to become a cop. And he pulls me over. And not only was I unshaven, because it was on the weekend, I was unshaven, no shower, sunglasses. And on top of it, Jeff, no license. I forgot, I had no license on me. And usually in my car, I always keep my registration and insurance card in the glove compartment. However, unbeknownst to me, even though I had made copies of those things, my ex-wife, but wife at the time, decided to use the copy of the registration and the copy of the insurance card as tissue paper for her chewed gum. So yeah, exactly. So that when I reached in to get the registration and insurance card, it was, let's just say, not presentable. I love you, Jeff.
Thank you so much for joining. Talk to you soon.
This has been Jeff Stearns, Connected Through Cars.